Inside the ManCave with Johnny Compian.
Oh, yeah. Hey, put your finger in my fun hole.
It's beautiful.
Graphic language will be used throughout this show.
Now we ready to roll.
Inside the ManCave with Johnny Compian.
Game over, bitches.
Inside the ManCave podcast show. Follow me on Twitter at Johnny Compian. Like and subscribe my YouTube page and all my social media pages. And thanks for the support that I'm getting. I'm up to 20 subscribers. I'm pretty happy. You know, when I first started doing these podcasts, I wanted to come out and talk about a lot of the experiences that I've been through in my radio career and some of the cool things that I couldn't imagine that I would be able to do working in radio. This is going to be a different show because I want to talk about something that I experienced in 2005, covering the San Antonio Spurs on their way to an NBA championship that would go through Seattle. And that was the last time the Seattle Sonics played in Seattle. And I was there with the two guys that I had worked with for a couple years in sports radio. And we went up to cover the Spurs. It was an experience that it was my first time kind of going solo because, you know, my guys, they had taken off like a day before and I was taking off. I was flying out there by myself. And it was just a whole new experience for me. And I was really happy that I was able to have an opportunity to do that. So I went on and flew to Seattle first time and went to go cover the Spurs. Different time zone, just everything was different for me and new. And so one of my jobs or my assignments was to kind of get, you know, some guests and bring them over to the table after the game. Grab maybe some analyst or somebody to come on with my two guys and kind of, we had a segment that we wanted to cover. And there was the semifinal game in the Western Conference. And that night I was able to bring over the NBA commissioner. And it was pretty cool. And also that night, I took a chance because you can never go out to these places. And I went on and did it, again a few years later in the sports station that I worked with for a few years. And that experience was cool. So I'll talk about those. When things like this happen, you want to share the experience. Because it happened the other day. We lost Bill Russell, one of the NBA's greatest all-time players. My opinion. 11 rings, played with the Boston Celtics. Growing up, of course, growing up in San Antonio, I was watching the NBA, and I was fascinated by the NBA game. I loved it. I loved playing basketball. That inspired me. I wasn't that good at it. So it inspired me. It opened my eyes to a lot of different things. And, going on and seeing Michael Jordan and, Tim Duncan and David Ross, just on and on. Just these great NBA legends, these great people that are part of this game, right? We separate and change it up when it comes down to the person, right? Because you see a lot of teams that you would see on TV when you were watching these games, when they were going at it, you didn't like certain players and they were the enemy. And in the NBA, it was always like that. You hated a team or you hated a player, or it was different the way every fan base was. And that's where I was about the Spurs, Jordan. I was a closet Celtics fan. I used to love watching McHale, Bird, Ainge. They just played a good game. I used to just love watching the game. I didn't get too much into the battles that Magic and Bird got into. It was cool watching and to learn from. But there was a lot of greats that you would watch, and they're like when they assembled that dream team, just every player you saw in there was like, it was just awesome. And I say that because Bill Russell played before my time of watching NBA basketball. But the beautiful thing is that we can watch highlights, right? We can watch highlights and kind of go back and see what he did in his career. He was very special, a great person, and I had the opportunity to kind of run around and try to get guests, right? I was not experienced at all. I was just kind of like, okay, go get a guest. Okay, I'll go talk to somebody. You had to go through people. You can't just walk up to a person and, hey, can you come on our show for a couple of minutes? It doesn't work that way. With the David Stern interview, that was pre-set up. And it was pretty cool because I was supposed to meet him and his people at a certain time. So I'm walking up and he's like, hey, Johnny. So it was pretty cool. David Stern called my name out and I'm like, hey. So we had an interview scheduled. Anyway, that night I had the opportunity to be on that floor, all access. And I'm walking down into our area because we were set up courtside. And I see Bill Russell and his wife. So I look and I'm like, whoa. NBA legend, great. Just, it's like, whoa. I was just fascinated. But you have to keep it. You can't be like fanboy and kind of freak out. I mean, you got to approach this and be professional, right? The best you can. I mean, look, I have long hair. I didn't have all the tattoos at the time. I'm sure he would have freaked out. But I still had long hair and wore all the chains and all that stuff. And so I walk up to him. I'm like, introduce myself. And he kind of just looks over at me and he's like listening to me. And I'm like, hey, would you give us a couple minutes to talk about this series? I know you love Tim Duncan and you love the way he plays. And he's like, no, I can't do it. I was like, he just shot me down like pretty quick. I was like, okay. I mean, what do you say? What do you say? Oh, come on, please. No. It's like, okay, you take the L and you just move on, right? You kind of just kind of crouch down a little bit and just keep walking. Well, he, says, I don't do interviews. I don't want to do an interview. And, but I appreciate you asking me. And he says, what is your name? So he asked for my name and he shakes my hand and he introduced me to his wife. And so he's like, so are you from San Antonio? I was like, yeah. And he's like, I love that place. I love San Antonio. And, so I'm just, kind of going back and forth with them and just letting them know that I'm a huge fan and that, he was I was like, you're just inspiration to me when I see you and everything that you stand for as a player and a human being. You know, I love that. And he kind of just looked at me and just shook my hand and was like, you know what, I appreciate your time. Thanks for asking me, you know, and I was just like in awe. I spent a couple minutes with Bill Russell. It was really cool. I'll never forget it. When I saw the news, almost on 2 days, I wanted to wait to do this because I know everybody came out and talked about it. And we remembered Bill Russell. And just watching the video and just watching them talk and doing these things with Tim Duncan during the playoff runs, it was just special to watch. So you see things like that and you experience a moment like that in your life. And when that person, you know, passes on and you reflect like, hey, I had a few minutes with him. We chatted for a couple seconds and, you know, he kind of he just looked at me and just didn't blow me off. Like, he's like, I don't do interviews, but, you know, I'll be happy to say, you know, ask your name or whatever. And it was pretty cool. I'll never forget that moment. We suffered a tremendous loss losing Bill Russell. And that's a guy, when you see him, he's, you know, just, he looked very healthy and just full of life and just a smile on his face and just very happy to, you know, just be watching NBA basketball and just still being around at the time. And I saw a lot of videos. So I'm running some video that the NBA released, and I think that it's special. It's a cool video. I just wanted to play that just to see him. Just a great person, you know. Just the era that he played in, all the things that they went through, and they stood for. You know, they never backed down. So when you see things like this happen, and you living the moment, right? And we lose such a legend like you know, Bill Russell. You just appreciate the fact that we can still, you know, look at these highlights and see him and go back into, you know, videos and everything that he did, and kind of just, you know, just happy that we have people like that in this world, you know, beside the game, you know, what he stood for. It was just an honor to be around him, an honor to talk to Bill Russell and meet him for, like I said, a few seconds. Would it seem like a few seconds? I'm sure it was about 3 or 4 minutes. It was really cool. I wanted to come on and talk about that because I think that it's cool to share these moments. What am I going to do? I can't just hold on to them. I got to share them, and I'm glad that we got this platform to do that, to be able to come out here on YouTube and share these moments. I'm sure that some people will appreciate it and others won't. If you don't, that's fine. I just put it out there because this is what I experience, and that's why I put this podcast together, because I want to share these moments with you guys. It was really cool. We're going to miss him. And throughout the next couple of days, we'll see, you know, a lot of other stuff that's going on when they have a funeral. I don't know how they're going to handle that, but I'm sure that's going to be pretty cool and special. I'm definitely going to tune in. And it's just a big loss for the NBA and for our country. You know, he was very, very special. And I was very honored, like I said before, to be able to meet him and spend a couple minutes with him.